This is the Hagmann Hagmann report for today. It is Monday, July 6, 2015. We're coming to you live from the Hagmann Hagmann studios here based in Northwest Pennsylvania. I'm Doug Hagmann at the helm with fellow investigator, researcher, and most importantly, my son, Joe Hagmann. Together, we are the Hagmann Hagmann Report, America's premier father-son investigative team. You know, it's our job to bring you the news that propels the headlines, the news that is being shaped and twisted, convoluted, not reported or hidden amid a funhouse of smoke and mirrors and a carnival we call the corporate media. We do the headline and news triage so you don't have to. We'd like to thank all of our new listeners. Thank you for checking in with us from all over the world, from all over the country. For our new listeners, we broadcast live every Monday through Friday, 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern. Our home base on the internet is hagmanandhagmann.com. That's hagmanandhagmann.com. And we're simulcast by the Christian United Broadcasting Network. Our home base, folks, bookmark this site, please. It's hagmanandhagmann.com. That's Hagmann, Hagmann, and hagmann.com. You can access us live via that website, as well as all of our past shows. You'll have to click on, for the moment, subscribe to RSS feed. And all that does is take you to a page with all of our previous shows. Now, most importantly, from our hagmanandhagmann.com, you can access our original investigative reports, as well as our social networking sites. We are on Facebook as the Hagmann Hagmann Report, and also individually. Tonight, we're going to be piercing the very fog of disinformation and misinformation I just referenced. We've got so many important things to talk about tonight. We deliberately, as it played out, we were supposed to be in Washington, D.C. today, as we speak right now, on a stage at the Daughters of the American Revolution giving a speech, and it's unfortunately, I'm not going to get into it except the fact that I can't travel. I've got an issue with my back, and I've been riding in my vehicle, riding to and from doctor's appointments on my knees. That's a kind of a fun trip, if you will. And so I've been pretty close to my home throughout for the last couple of days. I think I'm on the other side of it, however, after a lot of testing and injections and all sorts of stuff. But anyway, so I feel kind of bad about that. But in its place, they duct taped me to a chair. Not they. I'm talking about the immense staff we have here at Hagmann, and Joe propped me up. He tied a broomstick to my back, and I did a video, which is accessible on hagmanandhagmann.com. Video to be played at the conference, at the Celebrate America conference. If you want to check that out, go ahead, and certainly subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is new and improved. Just our thanks go out to a gentleman you're going to be hearing more about, JD, wonderful man, just a wonderful help. He's handling that. So, Joe, it's great to have you in the studio. By the way, Joe, I think I might have mentioned this to you in passing. Everything is kind of a haze at this point. I was talking with Dave Hodges yesterday, and something happened. Well, Bob Fletcher was supposed to be on with him during the first hour, except there was a forest fire bearing down on his home.
It's Bob Fletcher. Yeah, okay.
All right. And anyway, so I sat in for Bob Fletcher for the first hour of the program. Not sure I was too coherent, so you can have your giggles when you listen to that. But Dave and I were talking about the upcoming, just the news that we're seeing right now, just between Greece and the martial law and stuff. But so if you have a chance, take a listen to that program. We're going to be simulcasting on Sundays, making a spot for Dave Hodges' show on Sunday. He broadcasts Sunday 8 to 11 Eastern. So as a temporary band-aid kind of measure, because there's some uncertainty with respect to, I'm not even sure how to explain this. let's just say that the alternative media is a really fill in the blank. You know, in the alternative media, there are things that happen that sometimes you have no control over, or when you're in the alternative media, you've got huge targets on you. So I guess it's safe to say he's not sure if he can continue with his network that he's on because of certain things he's talked about.
Yeah, and either way, whether it's something to do with his network or he wants to, and we can provide the platform for him to reach more people. The latter is good enough for me to have Dave on.
I mean, there's talk. There's talk too, and folks, if I told you, who might be, we're trying to figure out how to make a permanent network operate. And if I would tell you the names of this network, oh man, boy, if Dave could pull this off, the king of the midnight airwaves. I can't say anymore, but wow, it would really be a great vehicle. So stay tuned because we've got so much going on that who knows. But keep Dave Hodges in your prayers, his program in your prayers, and only because it's a minefield out there with respect to alternative broadcasting, and you just never know. You wake up one morning and it's the entire table could be turned in a direction that you didn't see coming. So, so much news to get into. Folks, I hope you had a great weekend with your families. It was kind of, I don't know about you, but as I looked, well, I really didn't look anywhere except occasionally on the television, but as you consider our 239th birthday, it's rather bittersweet, I think, to look at what's happened to this country. And there are people actually celebrating this, celebrating the diversity and saying, oh, everything is great. It's never been better. I just look at that and I think, are we in the same country? I mean, are we even in the same country? We're so far apart. We're so far divided in our ideologies. If these people think
it's grown, the divide, especially a racial divide from what I'm seeing.
Yes.
That seems to be, I mean, that's something that is very concerning to me. See it on comment sections underneath news stories, all over the place. It seems like it's being funneled in that direction, and people are coming out of the woodwork, especially those filled with anger and hate toward another race, turning things into race issues that aren't, and turning.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a whole lot of things working right now to get people riled up in different ways.
Even the Confederate flag, now out of South Carolina, that Confederate flag now is being made into a race issue. Folks, I would urge you, if you have any interest in understanding the Confederate flag, what it represents, what it was used for, it doesn't represent slavery and oppression. To the real historical account behind the Confederate flag has nothing to do with that. So to make it into that is deliberately make it into that, to me, but by the people in power, is not ignorance. It doesn't come from a position of ignorance. It comes from a position of attempting to ignite and incite and inflame an already tense racial divide, like you said, and we're seeing this really play out, folks. I mean, I have a black friend who had mentioned, I was talking to him on the telephone I think it was Friday or Saturday, and we were talking, and he said, boy, it's getting bad. He lives out of state, and he said, but it's really getting bad. I mean, and he's a really great guy. He's a big heart. I mean, he would help anybody. But he said, he can sense the tension, both among the black population as well as the white population, the people he deals with. Man, it's sad. It really is that we've got to. This is orchestrated. All of this is orchestrated, and it's going to smack us. Joe, if I can take a moment. Well, you know what? Before let's do some housekeeping. Wednesday.
Yeah. We have a
special show Wednesday. Let's talk
Steve
about Steve
Quayle's going to be on
with Dane Wigington.
Wigington.
Sorry about that. Yeah, we're going to be talking about chemtrails. We're going to be talking about what's in them, and boy, folks, I was a really and you might be getting tired of hearing me say this. I was a real hard sell about this. You look in the sky and you see the white trails behind the aircraft. And you think, hey, that's normal, right?
You were out yesterday, right?
No, I was not. I haven't been out. Well, aside from
I just noticed a lot yesterday. I
traveled
with my wife to the beach or peninsula up here yesterday for a few hours, and I just noticed it in the sky late in the afternoon, real heavy. But if you didn't see it, that's fine.
No, I haven't seen the sky. No, I have not. I did peek my head out the window.
There's been a lot of study recently on chemtrails, from scientists to regular everyday Americans just wondering what's going on. The media will call people names for looking into this issue, and
well, I used to make fun of people too.
It's a legitimate question. I know. I'm 32 years old, and I don't remember the chemtrails until later in my life. I guess it's not something that I paid attention to.
Right.
I'm sure there's lots of people out there. But when did you start noticing them, or was it pointed out to you? I guess is a question that people.
No, it was pointed out. Yeah, it was because of your incessant whining. Not whining, incessant. Look at this. This is not normal. I finally said, okay. Let me look into this. And Steve Quayle, I would talk with him, and we'd, he would tell me, he would say, look, they're spraying this aerial spraying, and I would kind of, oh, come on, Steve, and finally he said, dude, you're an investigator, do the research. So I did. And when you look at videos like what in the world are they spraying, I think is one of them, and you look at the patents, you look at the open source documentation alone is enough to be convincing. So even if you don't look at the sky, just do your own research using the internet, and also use the libraries too. I would recommend that as well. For like the archives, for library archives for patent research and what have you, and you'll find some very interesting things. So, but aren't people who talk about this marginalized and by the mainstream media? Of course they are. But does that make it any less true? No, of course not. People still believe, for example, that Vince Foster, the anniversary of his death is coming up later this month. He was found in Fort Marcy Park. People still believe he committed suicide, regardless if you believe that or if you believe that he was murdered. That's what I do believe, the latter. And his body was placed in Fort Marcy Park. He certainly was not killed or did not die where he was found. But, to talk about things like this, of course, we're marginalized. So we have to be very careful. And also TWA 800. We have, we're in that time period now. All of these things coming up as moments in history. So Wednesday, Steve Quayle and Dane Wigington. We're going to be putting up information about the show tomorrow, I believe.
Stan will be on tomorrow also.
Yep. And if we can talk Nathan coming back in on Friday, that'd be great too.
Yeah. So we got a good week lined up, but tonight it's just us, no guests, which is nice because we had a lot of guests the last few weeks and didn't get a lot of time to talk about things going on in the news and current events.
If I can start out, Joe, real quick, and I just lay the foundation for something here, and then I'll be as quick as possible. In corresponding with Greg Jackson, we were talking about the Supreme Court decision. Well, it's not really a decision; it's an opinion, and he pointed that out, and that's very true. It's an opinion. Just to drive that point home, the Supreme Court, the individual states, and some argue the individual states that were not part of the litigation in the case that went before the Supreme Court. But it's our contention that all of the individual states do not have to abide by the Supreme Court opinion, and the governors do not. They don't have to be the Mitt Romneys.
In Idaho, I don't know how close this is to what you're talking about. Idaho's gay marriage ban remains in the state constitution. This is from AP today. It says same-sex marriage is now legal in all 50 states, but nestled in the Idaho Constitution remains the provision that defines marriage as only between a man and a woman. The Supreme Court struck down all gay marriage bans nationwide last week, making Idaho's constitutional marriage definition unenforceable. However, removing the language will likely be an uphill battle. Amending the Idaho Constitution first requires approval from the Republican-dominant legislature. The proposal must then win a simple majority in a vote or referendum, a tough task for even lesser politically charged initiatives, they say. Idaho is one of 30 states that amended their constitution to ban gay marriage and have not yet taken the steps to repeal their amendments, even though they have been rendered unenforceable by the Supreme Court's gay marriage decision. So what do? We have a Supreme Court that's, they say here, has issued or struck down a ban on same-sex marriage in all 50 states, but up to 30 state constitutions,
define
language
marriage
will have to be changed.
See,
how's that going to work?
Well, we cannot allow our states, and this is, I believe, this is how we have to fight this. We cannot allow our individual states where we reside to acquiesce to the Supreme Court opinion. In other words, the governors of our states, the lawmakers of our states, do not have to follow the Supreme Court opinion. That's why we have the 14th Amendment. And if people understood that, if, for example, Mitt Romney folded under the pretext, or ostensibly because the court ruled in Massachusetts, the court ruled that, on a number of issues. But he did not have to follow the court's rulings, being the chief executive officer and having the state constitution, like you mentioned. So it to me, this is a further, and if you read the dissenting opinions in the Supreme Court decision or opinion, if you read the dissenting opinions in the Supreme Court opinion, you'll get a clear understanding that the court has really far surpassed their power and have become an out of control body. And I think that's pretty clear in the dissenting opinions. But, I happened to reference a book today in the video I did, When a Nation Forgets God. And this is a book from Erwin Lutzer. I'm sure our listeners have read this, but the author talks about Nazi Germany. And we often make comparisons, some which is somewhat of a stretch perhaps, between America and Nazi Germany. Some people believe that there is no comparison. But just consider that Hitler believed that the Jews were subhuman, that they were parasites that needed to be exterminated. In a 1923 speech in Munich, he said that the Jews are undoubtedly a race, but not human. They can't be human in the sense of being an image of God, the eternal. He really slammed and dehumanized the Jewish people. So Hitler made sure they could be killed, essentially, without any fear of reprisal. And what he did was he did change the law to ensure that the extinguishing of the Jewish race would not be a crime. So Hitler created new laws that would that essentially remove the Jews from their status as people. With his declaration that they were beneath animals, Himmler had given the green light to use his SS troops to exterminate them. The SS, at that point, from that point forward, they were free to kill without breaking laws. They were free to eliminate all the Jews without committing murder. There wouldn't be any trials at all. And laws define nations. Laws reflect a nation's priorities, their agenda and values. In Nazi Germany, where religion was privatized and God was separated from government, not even natural law was recognized as having validity. And think about that. So when Hitler got to the Reichstag to give him the power to make the laws he made were arbitrary. They were drafted to fulfill the goals of a totalitarian state. Now, doesn't that sound a lot like what's taking place here in America? Even the Nazis, as Hitler's power grew, as the power was centralized into what would be the equivalent of our executive branch, people would proclaim Hitler is the law. Hermann Goering put it, the law and the will of Hitler are one. And right and wrong were determined by Hitler. See, isn't that what's really taking place? Oh, there are some subtle differences here. The Nuremberg laws of September 15th, 1935, deprived the Jews of German citizenship. They confined them to the status of subjects, and the laws prohibited either marriage or sexual relationships between the Jewish and Aryan race. Then there were laws against treason, and treason was defined as anything that was contrary to the will and the purposes of the Third Reich. Now think about that. Criticism of Hitler and the Third Reich, that was considered treason. Freedom of the press was treason. A failure to acquiesce or to advance the agenda of the Third Reich was considered treason. So what we saw in Dr. Ted Broer, he's talked about his mother witnessing this whole evolution in Nazi Germany. What we saw is the law of Moses being replaced by the law of man. And, in 1934 in Germany, the People's Court was established to try acts of treason, and 5 judges were appointed to each court, three of whom were always appointed by Hitler, one of his associates, because of their special knowledge in the defense against subversive activities, or because they are more intimately connected with the political trends of the nation. Now I ask you, doesn't this sound familiar? And the proceedings were always held in secret. The punishments were always severe. And there were posters, back at the time, there were posters made, crimson red posters, which announced the names of those who died under the axe of the executioner. And the experience of Nazi Germany should remind all of us that whoever controls a nation's laws also controls a nation's agenda, and to some extent its values. If the source of a law is the individual, then the individual is the God of that system. If the source of law in our court, if the source of law is our court, then the court is our God, is it not?
Exactly right.
Man, if there's no higher law beyond man, then man must be his own God. Now, I guess I'm really kind of getting into trying to get into the background, the belief system behind this. When you choose your authority, you choose your God. And when you look for your law, there is your God. Look behind the law, and there is your God, I guess is perhaps is stated more succinctly. So, with Hitler's power to make law, he could mock his powerless opposition. Wow. Isn't that what's happening today? And without a law in their favor, opponents really had no defense against the accusations made against them. Pastors, for example, could be tried for hate crimes such as, and I'm quoting this now, abuse of pulpit or treason. And if accused, they had no recourse but to accept their fate. They could easily be presented with false evidence that would accuse them of theft or sexual malpractices or any other number of crimes. That's why Hitler could belittle the pastors and say with utter contempt, you can do anything you want with them. They will submit. They are insignificant little people, submissive as dogs, and they sweat with embarrassment when you talk to them. He knew that he could crush their resistance because the law was on his side. He who creates the laws wins. So by now, it should be clear that the moral landscape of a country is strongly influenced by its laws. When Hitler made the laws, Germany was molded into his own image. After Hitler was defeated, war crime trials were held in Nuremberg. By the way, I would say that Hitler was not defeated. Nazi Germany was not defeated, of course. But that's another topic altogether. I'll just move on here. Moral relativists who believe that laws are nothing more than the result of social conditioning, subject to the whims, wishes of leaders and nations, would have to agree with Göring, Hitler's designated successor, when at Nuremberg he insisted, "This court has no jurisdiction over me. I am German." By what laws then should the Nazi be tried? And what would be the basis of such laws? So either God is the lawgiver or man is. That's the point, I think. When God is separated from government, we are forced to accept arbitrary laws. Either God is the lawgiver or man is. Either we derive our laws from theistic universal values, or we say that the individual countries or cultures are the lawgivers. So either God is supreme or the state is supreme. I mean, wouldn't you agree with that, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. And what do we see, in this nation?
Well, yeah. I mean, look at 1973 when it was changed to folks, you know what's going on.
If the laws were God's laws, why not just keep them the way they were? Why would we have to change anything about the Ten Commandments?
Yeah,
they're not. I mean, we were listening to something, I think, last time we went to Washington, D.C., and there was some gentleman on a broadcast or whatever we were listening to, and he says, the government can't work with "thou shalt not steal," so it has to write laws, that they can skirt and get around with what they're trying to say, because "thou shalt not steal" is too broad for them to work with. They have to expand it and make it so they can do what they need to do by siphoning money out of whoever they want to, so they can steal.
Right.
At the same time, it's illegal for other people to steal. So they set these laws up with a purpose and a reason. I mean, there's a reason and a purpose for why the laws are the way they are. They started, our current system. We live in a republic. Rome was a republic. It had a senate. It had, a populace vote.
Right.
But look where that got them. And all systems of government and authority on this earth don't seem to be of God. At least all the major ones throughout history and in today. I mean, how many of them can really say that they are derived from God for the purposes of a Christian kingdom? None.
No, it's true. But that's, I really believe, referencing from the book When a Nation Forgets God, I think that tells us a lot about what is taking place today, and it also gives us a warning as to what will be happening. I believe the judgment that will befall us, and on the road to that judgment, exactly where things will fall apart, how the wheels will fall off. And I think that Christians, if you take the example of Nazi Germany, and instead of Jews, just input Christians and Jews, perhaps here in America, I do believe that Christianity will be outlawed. And of course, we know that this one world government, the intent is to outlaw any type of, it's to outlaw Christianity, the Jewish religion, and even Islam in place, or to place the state religion in its place. As I was down this weekend, I was reading a book that I've, I'll tell you, Brotherhood of Darkness by Dr. Stanley Monteith, the late Dr. Stanley Monteith. And I'm sure some people are familiar with this book. It's not a long read, but it's a very precise book. It's a very short, easy read, Brotherhood of Darkness. And Dr. Monteith talks about a number of things in here. For example, who's responsible for what's happening in the world today? And don't we talk about this all the time. Who's responsible? Who can we point the finger at? Who can we identify? Some people will say, well, it's the bankers. And this is Dr. Monteith that talks about this. Some people say, well, it's the bankers. And they'll make a case for the bankers. Others will say, no, it's the Jewish bankers. And they'll make a case for that. Some people will say it's the central bankers. Others will talk about, there are organizations such as the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergers, CFR, meaning Council on Foreign Relations, and say they're responsible. And the way he's written this book is extremely, it's very compelling in terms of his presentation. Bottom line here, and I agree with his assessment and conclusion, the bottom line is there are too many clues. You're looking at a world, if the world was a crime scene, it's a contaminated crime scene. He recounts the movie Murder on the Orient Express, where a man is killed and stabbed 12 times, and there are 12 people, 12 suspects, and the clues point to, they point in all different directions, implicating any one of the 12. Well, in fact, it's all of the 12, following the movie plot. And that's what we see today, right now. It's not any one group that is responsible for the ills that we see today. It's a combination of all of them. And a lot of times, one group will openly blame another group, or clues will be set. And think about this. We talk about the Illuminati as being a group responsible for what's taking place today. Well, we can grab a whole bunch of evidence, can't we, that could convict the Illuminati, members of the Illuminati, or Skull and Bones, or, as I mentioned before, the CFR, Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergers, the people within those groups, the bankers, central bankers, all of these people. We can assemble scads of evidence, a whole bunch of evidence to implicate any one of these groups. But the fact is, it's all of them working in conjunction with one another. The Jesuits. Yes, the Jesuits. Okay, and people, I got an email saying, well, you never mentioned the Jesuits. Oh, sure we do. The Masons. Yes, the Freemasonry. And I'm not talking about your low-level Masons, that don't understand the higher levels here. The Order of the Quest, the Rosicrucians, for example, Okay, all of these, Skull and Bones, like I mentioned, the Theosophical Society. It's all of them. And we're being gamed to believe it's one of, it's much narrower than that. No, it's all of them. And I'm gonna do a video on this because this is fascinating to me. When you look at, for example, events in our history, the way you've looked at them before. I mean, Watergate is one example, and why Watergate? Because, well, Watergate is to me a very clear example. Once you take a look at Watergate, and I won't get into this now because we've got current events to get into, but once you take a look at what happened in Watergate and how Nelson Rockefeller was positioned to be a heartbeat away from the presidency, and how that all played out, man, you really understand how convoluted things are. A fascinating story. In my weekend reading, I was able to get my hands on an original copy of the Rockefeller File by Gary Allen. In fact, the sticker price on this is $1.95. Okay, and it was published back in 1976. This is actually a collector's item. I didn't know that. But man, when you look at, when you dissect, you know who was behind? Joe, do you know who really was the architect of Watergate?
I have no idea.
I mean, Rockefeller, yes, he was the man behind everything. But who is the face of Watergate? I mean, or who was the instrument that really brought down Nixon? Who was the person that brought down Nixon? This answer might surprise you. It might surprise people listening. But if you're looking at Watergate as a crime, which it ostensibly was, okay, who was the person behind Watergate that really who was moving the chess pieces? It was Henry Kissinger, Heinz Kissinger.
That's not surprising.
No, it's not.
And that was Obama's first White House guest after his election.
And that's kind of why I mentioned this. If you look at our foreign policy, and don't forget the Kissinger's role in our foreign policy from the early 70s forward, and even today, a lot of what we're seeing today economically, with our relations with China and other countries, it's a byproduct of Henry Kissinger. So the criminals, in my view, are very active, are still active. And look at Obama. I mean, Kissinger was not his... in the Rockefeller File by Gary Allen, he makes a good point about Watergate. Excuse me. He writes about the tapes that really sunk Nixon, and he asks the question: if Nixon had really control and possession of the tapes, or at least had control over the tapes that really put the nail in his political coffin in his presidency, why didn't he destroy them when he had the chance? And Gary Allen states that, well, at the time, hubris was blamed for it. Nixon thought he was above the law and could get away with it. Well, the answer is much more simple and much more realistic. The fact is, he did not have control over the tapes. And Kissinger made sure of that, according to Gary Allen. It was actually someone else who had control over the tapes that doomed his presidency and put Nelson Rockefeller in a position of the vice presidency, a heartbeat away from the presidency. And don't forget, Gerald Ford had a series of kind of run-ins with the Manson family shooters, too. And I believe his limousine, if I'm not mistaken, I think there was he was in an accident with a presidential limousine. So it's interesting to look back and to see that some of the same players back in the 70s and throughout history are still active, and the agenda is still active. So with that in mind, we can approach today's news knowing that all of these groups are involved, all of these globalist groups, and oh, by the way, it's all communist in nature. So it's all based on a communist system. That's what we're seeing. So, all right. Thanks for that. A little bit of. I had to get this out of my chest. I really haven't talked to anybody the entire weekend, so.
That's what you get.
Yeah.
For isolating yourself.
No, I mean it's looking at this and making this assessment, spending some quiet time in research and looking at this and being able to make this assessment of what's taking place today. Boy, nothing, and when they say nothing, there's nothing new under the sun, they mean that. I mean that's an accurate statement, because we're seeing a replay today of what happened. It's cyclical over the years, and it's interesting. All we have to do is research and figure out the truth, and we'll see that what's taking place today has long been planned. This has been planned. We're here. The powers behind the events. Well, they're the same. Old world order is going to be the new world order 2.0. So, all right, let's get into some headlines here.
Well, we got a whole lot to get into today.
Yes,
I don't know where you want to start. We have what's going on in Greece. We have the illegal immigration is getting a lot of attention.
Did you happen to see there's a video of the Pier 14 shooter out there? Have you seen that?
Okay, no, I heard a lot of conflicting reports about this. Now, this is in San Francisco, where 2 news crews were robbed.
Yes.
For their cameras as they.
Well, there was a shooting of that young lady.
Yeah, that's how it started.
And then, of course, this illegal immigrant, ostensibly. I can't authenticate the video. All right, I don't know.
See, I haven't seen the video.
All right.
Okay.
Francisco Sanchez is the suspect.
Okay.
Pier 14 shooting suspect. Full confession. This was uploaded about July 5th.
Is this where the lawyers are there and the translators are there? Okay, what was his name?
Yeah, I mean, well, okay, this is a 45-minute jailhouse interview where Sanchez talked about how the shooting supposedly went down and why he kept returning to the United States after being deported numerous times.
Okay, this is the Homeland Security refused. Jay Johnson,
yeah, right,
declined to comment whether cities offering sanctuary to dangerous illegal immigrants are posing as a safety threat in the U.S. This is just a few days after a criminal alien who was given sanctuary in San Francisco shot and killed a California woman. I'm suspecting this is the same.
Right. Yes,
case.
It is.
And I'm going to jump here to another article out of what is this? This is Tucson, Arizona Daily Star. Border fence jumpers are breaking bones. And this writer goes on to lay an article out of an ending dream for those as they try to, how wrong it is to have this fence here and how these people jumping the fence are breaking their bones. And their dream ends with, broken bones as they try to get over this 14-foot fence.
One of the,
one portion here of the border that actually has a fence up, first of all. But, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of coverage today about illegal immigration and the Obama administration's handling of the illegal immigration as people who have been deported 3 times, 5 times, 7 times are committing crimes, not only, just crimes to survive, but, violent crimes from murder to armed robbery to rape. and these people have been deported countless times, and they're being let loose in our country. This goes when Ann Coulter had her book signing in Arizona.
Oh, that was horrific. In terms of the
illegal immigrants showed up and started tearing apart her books. And what'd she say? At least they're not raping 4-year-old girls, something along those lines. Now, this doesn't go for, obviously, all people who come over here illegally, but apparently and we've been talking about this, a big issue with who is let to come into America. It's one thing to, grant asylum to, we'll say, women and children who have no criminal record, but to just turn a blind eye to people who've been deported a handful of times who have violent offenses in their past.
Sure.
That's crazy. And then I saw today that the White House was blaming the GOP for the people who've been deported multiple times and are here killing people. This is all headlines that I've been reading and articles I've been reading, but the White House held a press conference today blaming Republicans, and obviously it's Republicans and Democrats that are to blame for all this. But
Donald Trump
into a political war.
I'm not sure how many people saw this, and a lot of people are not taking Donald Trump's candidacy seriously, and I don't know how this is going to play out. I don't know what
companies are cutting ties.
Yes.
Cities are cutting ties with Donald Trump,
which I think, by the way, is absolutely despicable.
Fox today called him a Democrat plant to spoil the election. I saw in my 20 minutes I had that on.
Well, if you go back in history and look at Teddy Roosevelt when he came back. I'm trying to now remember which election it was, but he did so with the full intent of breaking up or pulling the vote away from one of the other candidates. But Donald Trump, I don't know. He doubled down today on his controversial comments about illegal immigration from Mexico, and he said that infectious disease is pouring across the border. In fact, he issued a 900-word statement invoking the death of a San Francisco woman shot and killed last week by this Sanchez, this guy was previously deported to Mexico 5 different times, and Trump said that it's merely 1,000. It's one of 1,000 similar incidents across the United States, and that's very true. So, and I've heard from Border Patrol agents, actually about 3. I'm not going to say hundreds. I've heard, I think, from 3 over the last 3 years that they've been told not to enforce the laws, that to look the other way. Essentially, those are their orders, and they won't process at the southern border now. Specifically, I'm talking about they're not being made, or they're being told to stand down. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. They're being told to stand down. So here we go. So what's and people will look at this, and especially Republicans will look at what's taking place with immigration and say, well, it's only because the Democrats want to increase their voting numbers. Well, sure, that might be true, but I think they're missing the larger point here. The larger point is to destroy the middle class of America, to destroy our nation, to essentially balkanize our country. You take away our language, our culture, and the common factors that we all share as a nation, you destroy the nation. And they must destroy the country in order to create this new world order, period. So let's look bigger. It's not just for votes. Oh, it's much bigger than that. And look at the numbers of people who are surging in here. And a lot of these immigrants, illegal immigrants, are being housed, flown, bused, moved into communities all across the United States.
Yeah, some of the things that are left out of the presidential speeches and are the intent. And Dave Hodges gets into this, and he's done a lot of research. I know because he's one of the few people that have talked about this. The drug cartels' partnerships with the United States, and the government and Department of Justice, and what they're allowed to do in exchange for information and help with busting down their competitors. And it's big business, obviously. We have HSBC Bank, we have Bank of America, all these banks paying these huge, $1 million fines for billion-dollar drug money laundering schemes every year. And where do you think this drug smuggling is coming from? Where do you think these drug profits are coming from? And then on top of that, you have illegal immigrants who are coming over here and getting treatment that is better than what a U.S. person in need of assistance is getting. They're getting money, housing, medical, and back taxes in some articles I read, which doesn't make much sense to me. But there are, United States citizens who've been here who, as the need for assistance, government assistance, continues to skyrocket. As you said, the jobs continue to be gutted from our middle class, and even the lower class finding it hard to find work.
Really, there's, I hesitate. Lower class economically, I suppose, or the lower income brackets.
Yeah. Well, I don't know the correct terminology, but if there's a middle class, there's a higher class and a lower class.
Right.
That's how I'm
relative to. Yeah, I get that.
All of that's being gutted, and what they're doing is we talked about the divide and conquer. They're continuing to divide and conquer. This is that Van Jones pressure on the bottom.
Oh yeah.
Top down,
bottom up.
Yeah. Yep. This is what exactly what is happening.
And None Dare Call It Conspiracy, another book by Gary Allen, talks just exactly about that as a tactic, top down, bottom up, and the stress that causes. And tightly connected to this, and people are not thinking this way, is the TPP, because now what is happening to our country with respect to immigration, illegal immigration, in diluting our culture or rending our moral and religious fabric of this country.
When you can't fly American flags on holidays in your own personal space, and from that to what you're going to get into, there's a whole host of issues, a whole host of different sectors of society being used by the administration to bring about this divide and conquer, this and all the legislation, and now the NAFTA, the GATT, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, this push towards a one world order. Prison is a one world order. Everybody's treated equally. Everybody gets food 3 meals a day. Everybody has just the right amount of space. But is that what we want? And we're moving towards that. And it's for us. It's for the what you call us. People say the sheep, the enslaved. What the elites call us, or refer to regular people.
Right.
And this is all working towards demoralization, destabilization of this country economically, and morally. And we see this growing trend of anti-Americanism even among Americans.
Well, you know what, Joe? When you look back, and you mentioned NAFTA, we both mentioned NAFTA, but when you look back at the Clinton administration, Bill Clinton, and you look back at during that time when NAFTA came into being, and people, again, don't realize that, for example, the influx of illegal immigrants in this country, it's directly related, and it's a collateral effect of the Clinton administration as well. During Clinton's tenure, look at the Clinton cabinet, the NAFTA stalwarts in the Clinton cabinet. For example, Howard Nussbaum, Lloyd Benson, Warren Christopher, Ron Brown, Mickey Cantor, just to name a couple. All right, these people really engaged in this economic revolution, using the fate of the American people as cannon fodder, all right, or the American people themselves as cannon fodder. And if you think discussion of NAFTA, for example, is not relevant to what's going on today, or if it's like old news, you got to be fully aware, I believe, of the depth of the campaign that was conducted against the American middle class. Once you're aware of the level of betrayal that took place, you'll look at things like the TPP and understand what they're trying to do again. I mean, they won with NAFTA, they meaning the power elite. They got it through. So they're trying again with the TPP, believing that they're going to get it through. And they will. See, when you look at things like NAFTA, the UN Treaty, the Panama Canal Treaty, the decisions that vitally affect the future of us and the United States collectively, of us individually, the middle class, they're always made, the decisions behind these they're always made by special interest groups. And so, but who are involved in these interest groups? Special interest groups, obviously the corporations, but wait, can you name them, or who are they? Well, they're representatives of, as I mentioned earlier, referencing the book by Dr. Stanley Monteith. It's groups like the Committee of 300, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commissions. It's not just one; it's all of these groups, members of all of these groups, and decision making about things like NAFTA, like GATT, like WTO, and now TPP, and the Atlantic aspect of that. They're not being based on the merits of the issues. No. It's special interest groups. And of course, going hand in hand with the TPP is this illegal immigration. We are enduring or taking heavy blows. This is a full frontal assault against the American people. And if you look at, even go back before Clinton, go back to 1984, you can see that the components of NAFTA were being created. And I go back to NAFTA frequently because these power brokers, the power elite, don't have a lot of new things, new tricks up their sleeves. They tend to go back to what worked before and use it from the same playbook, use the plays from the same playbook. So go back and look at what happened with NAFTA. One of the ploys that NAFTA proponents used was the old trick of putting up a person, and we see this today, putting up a person who ostensibly would speak out strongly against NAFTA. And this person would appear to have all of the answers why NAFTA should not pass. But in reality, that person would be the enemy. They'd be in the enemy camp. That way, the way it works is that the expert is then discredited. All or nearly all of his conclusions are proven wrong as planned, so that the, we'll say, pro-TPP forces can say, you see just how badly wrong he was? Okay, that's the tactic. That was the tactic employed for NAFTA. That was a tactic employed for GATT and other trade treaties, and it's being employed now today. The very politicians, the very power, the elected officials you're seeing are taking positions of going against the TPP when in fact they are absolutely 100% for it. And boy, you can just see who those people are.
With that, let's take a top of the hour break. We're going to come back and hit more news. Maybe take phone calls in the next hour.
Yeah,
let's see how far we get through. If you guys want to give us a call and get on hold, 661-244-9839 is the number. Back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 on this Monday, July 6, 2015 edition of the Hagmann Hagmann Report. We are back after hour number 1 in a holiday weekend. I want to just tell a quick story here. On Saturday, the 4th, I went to a family get-together, my wife's family. And it's about 25 minutes outside of the city where we live, drive. And it was a nice day, so we went out there and had a good time and came back. And we got back around, 8 o'clock, and everybody, it just seemed like the neighborhood I'm in now, everybody had these massive fireworks and were shooting them off all evening. And I didn't hear anybody getting hurt or nothing bad happened around here in our city, which was nice. But that night, it was that next morning actually, about 2:30 in the morning, I was still awake and I was falling asleep on the couch. And my wife was sitting on the floor, and I must have dozed off. All I remember is her jumping up and really over me, on top of me on the couch, and she's out the window, and I'm asking her, what's going on? I didn't hear this, and our windows are wide open. Right across the street, this car driving down the street smashed into a parked car. It's a sober driver, and I don't know how I didn't hear it, but I wanted to bring you out there, Dad. This was a perfect case for our old investigating. We used to investigate some suspicious automobile accidents. Well, somehow there was a car parked in front of the parked car that got hit on the street, and on the right-hand side was a big tree. Somehow this car that hit the parked car flung it into the front yard of the house right across the street from mine. So it squeaked between this other parked car and a tree and flung it way in the front of this yard.
Wow.
I could not,
to recreate
everybody was all right. I don't think you could recreate it. It had to be 1 in a million. And the tire tracks are still out there. You'll have to come see them. But it was baffling to me. It was baffling to me how I didn't hear that, but I heard my wife, getting up and trying to run toward the window and seeing that accident. And the lady, thank goodness, was sober and was okay. Both cars were totaled.
Well, you should have interviewed the person behind the wheel to find out what happened. But
the police took about 25 minutes to get there, I was surprised. But that was the real fireworks for my July 4th.
Well, that's good. I mean, it's good that.
The interesting part was though the way the cars ended up. I'll have to show you after the show on a map how that happened. But I mean, what it looked like, and you might be able to tell me how it happened. But
I don't know.
It was pretty interesting. But I was going to say, if that's the worst that happened on my July 4th, I had a pretty good day. So.
Hey, it goes back to what are we celebrating here with respect to America. We can celebrate our heritage, our Judeo-Christian heritage, and no one's going to tell me otherwise that this country was not founded at the with the Mayflower Compact. I'm not talking about the founding fathers, how they were deists. Look, I understand all of that. I get all of that, but this country was founded as a Christian nation, period. And for Obama to redefine that, and I mean openly, mockingly redefining our founding, and saying it, we're not a Christian nation. To me, the other part of this too is we had the opportunity in 2008 to really have him disqualified, constitutionally disqualified, but no one would touch this. No lawmaker would touch this, although they put McCain, and I'm no fan of McCain, believe me, I'm no fan of McCain, but they had a Senate resolution passed to make him eligible, constitutionally eligible, but they didn't do this for Obama. And people might roll their eyes at this point and say, oh, not this again, Doug. Come on, you're talking about his constitutional eligibility. But don't you think that there was and still is a conspiracy, by definition, a conspiracy behind Obama and his placement in the Oval Office for this period of time? And it's interesting as well when you read accounts in the Russian press where there was foreknowledge of certain people high up in the KGB who knew in advance of Obama's, election, selection and election, if you will, into the Oval Office, that he would be he would hold and I contend illegally, the office of the president. But he was described by Russians as a communist, a Muslim/communist, a communist with ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. And look what we have. And he was identified by name long before he entered the national stage. So how does that happen? Conspiracy? Absolutely. Are we allowed to talk about it? Well, we are, but others won't touch it. It's a third rail among the corporate media, and like Paul McGuire says, you got six corporations, really, a total of 6 corporations. And if you look at the structure of the corporations, the families, the incestuous relationship of the 6, you really have basically a single group that has authority over all the media. So, but I contend that we should have disallowed Obama, disqualified him, and I'm wondering too about. And folks, I don't know. Do you wonder about this? Where is the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, the cold case posse in this? Whatever happened to them? Now, I'm not throwing any rocks at all. I'm just asking a question. I haven't heard anything from them. Have you? Don't forget Gibbs. Robert Gibbs was the guy that said he was the one that put the long-form birth certificate on the internet. I don't know how many people know that, but he admitted, he stated that he personally, on behalf of Obama and the White House, uploaded the PDF file of the long-form birth certificate. That's Robert Gibbs, who now works for McDonald's. Oh boy. Anyway, my argument is that we none of this, or a lot of this, could have been slowed down. A lot of what we're seeing today could have been slowed down. And if we would prove his ineligibility by way of the Constitution, that means all of his appointments, all of his laws, Obamacare, all of this would be tossed out the window. But you see, no one wants to touch this. And you have to ask yourself why. Well, it's very simple. There's files on everybody. And I would go back, to the Clinton White House when the Craig Livingstone was their bouncer from a bar in Pittsburgh, acting as White House security, missing FBI files. Perhaps they're being put to good use. They were put to good use back in the Clinton administration, and now this corrupt renegade regime, and perhaps even throughout the entire course of history, beginning with the disappearance of the files in the mid-90s. So, all of this is working against us, and we have to identify. And let me just grab this here, because I think this was an amazing quote. I put this as the quote of today. I've got too many. Here it is, right here. Okay, too many source material things here. I think this is great. Again, quoting from the late Stanley Monteith. An understanding of the forces that have shaped the events of the 20th century is predicated not on facts to be learned, but rather on secrets to be discovered. The quote of today is this: men and women become accomplices to those evils they fail to oppose. And I think that's pretty profound.
Yeah.
So, no.
Greece.
Yes.
48 hours away from unrest. This, according to Bloomberg.com. Greek Prime Minister has 48 hours to resolve a standoff with creditors before civil unrest breaks out and ATMs run out of cash. This from a hedge fund asset management. Balzani said, fund managers are questioning how the IMF and Europe's leaders can seal a deal with Athens following a no vote in a Greek referendum on Sunday. 61% of voters rejected austerity, increasing the likelihood of an exit from the Eurozone. I don't see a good resolution anytime soon, Colin Lancer, a senior managing director with Balsney, said. A $9 billion fund based in Chicago said in an email response to the question. The big question is whether the EU adapts a strategy of waiting them out. The hope would be that the unrest leads to a unity government or change in government, they say. Hedge fund managers turned cautious on global equities in the run-up to Sunday's vote, with sales of stocks sending a gauge of manager bullishness sliding. They go through some stock prices here and indexes, and anyway, they say there is little chance of Greece accepting a deal unless the country's debt is reconstructed or restructured. That's from a global strategist at Luxor Asset Management, a Paris-based unit. Greece has been targeted by some hedge funds seeking returns in a market viewed as too risky for many traditional investors. And the no vote, some say, will cause rioting in the streets when the banks close down. They say that the country Greece is out of cash, meaning and they're looking towards consumer-based bail-ins, bank bail-ins, where they steal the deposits from their customers. And this is what Greece is looking at in the near future. And how will it affect this country? How will it affect our markets here?
Well, Greece defaults on their payment to the IMF. There are huge geopolitical implications for Russia. You know that for the Ukraine.
I've heard, also, I don't know how important this is, but I also heard a rumor that Russia and China could help Greece with United States money. Don't know how accurate that is. Just want to throw that out there. But what's going to happen? They voted no to austerity measures. Doesn't seem like they want to be a part of the European Union anymore. Are they really just sitting in the bankers' hands, and how will it end up? It doesn't look good for the common person in Greece right now.
Well, one thing, and this is complicated.
This just happened a few years back in Greece.
Right. But it wasn't enough. See, that bail-in wasn't enough.
It boggles my mind, though. The people of Greece seen what has happened firsthand with banks and debt, and to see more rioting and unrest in the streets, wouldn't you say that? I mean, they haven't learned from the mistake of years ago, a few years back, when this happened to them. And there were huge protests. I mean, you guys all remember the huge protests in Greece years ago.
Well, this is going to really, the more I researched this, folks, this is going to really come into maturity, I suppose, in mid-September of this year. Isn't that interesting?
That's where everything else is being pointed to.
Right.
Also.
There's a strong possibility that after Greece defaults, they would need to use the Chinese and Russian, their joint payment systems, to in place of the Brussels-based Western system. Okay. Now, I know this sounds complicated, but if you listen to people like Jim Willey and others, that this is going to have some serious implications for the United States ultimately, and for the world, because you're talking about the IMF being, the IMF is being, Greece is defaulting on payments to the IMF, so that's how that figures in. We have to take a look at what's going on in Greece and understand that this is just a domino in the system of a larger. Well, I mean, we can't look at Greece as just an isolated case. It's part of it's one domino among many, and I think that this is going to perhaps take the European, or has the potential to take the European Union a little bit down with it. And there's some Cold War rhetoric being tossed around right now. There's also some pre-World War I kind of feeling to texture to what's going on in the European Near East the countries. If you look at this, so we're in a very perilous period of time economically, especially with with Russia, with China, and it's got again the texture and flavor of a pre-World War I type of an event. Well, yeah, I won't get into it. We could spend an entire program talking about this. This also involves NATO. You have to look at the NATO aspect of this. Russia, establishing air and naval bases. What Russia is doing with respect to handling Greece, the insolvency crisis, and who's being blamed for this? Well, Wall Street. They're saying that the insolvency crisis, originated in Wall Street. So, remember how we spoke about the United States being the pariah of the world. We note that Russia and China specifically, they don't want Greece at this point to leave the Eurozone yet, okay? And Jim Rickards, if you read his material, he's postulating that Russia and China are preparing to use the Greeks as a test case for the introduction of a new currency basket. That's from Jim Rickards. Weaning of a European state away from the euro and petrodollar model of currencies. So is what we're seeing right now, could this be the first domino into a basket of currencies, a bouncing out of the euro, bouncing out of the petrodollar, and creating this new basket of currencies headed up perhaps by Russia and China, or at least China and Russia, we'll say. Look at what Russia's doing in response to this militarily and geopolitically speaking. This, I mean, people aren't getting the seriousness of this. It's really serious, and it's going to have it's really going to have an effect here on what happens here. So, did you have anything else on Greece? Because again, we could spend an entire program on the economic aspect of it.
No, I mean that's the important part, the no vote. And that,
and remember, they're socialists over there. Okay, I mean that government is socialist, is a socialist government. But
yeah, and we're gonna, I don't know, with what's coming with Greece. I think the news will come further this week on what and how what's really important. We'll see happen as this week unfolds. Another news story on the 4th of July: Russian bombers fly near the U.S. on July 4th. This is one of a continued pattern by Russian aircrafts. As Americans were celebrating 4th of July holiday, 4 Russian long-range bomber aircraft flew close enough to the U.S. shores that they were intercepted by military fighter jets. The first 2 set of bombers flew near Alaska, and just 30 minutes later, a separate set flew far off the west coast of California. According to officials at NATO, or at NORAD, the flight stayed within the international airspace, and at no time did any of the Russian bombers ever enter or get close to entering sovereign North American boundaries. But this is something that has been ongoing. Every few weeks we see a news story similar to this.
I want to mention this too, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier. Let me see if I have it here. No, I don't. Folks, if you want to do some research, there's Benghazi. The story about Benghazi has taken on, as
Yeah.
Have you seen this?
Okay,
let me see if I can find
released some documents
Right.
last week. I believe it was last week. You and me talked about this off air. We didn't really get a chance to or remember to talk about it on air or even to each other. But there was news that the Obama administration knew 10 days before the Benghazi attack that something was going to happen, or that an actual attack was going to take place?
Right, but yes. But what's really important, and what we really need to focus in on, and Fox News did a kind of an overview of this. Andrew Napolitano did this, but to me, it didn't go far enough. Let me see if I had my notes here to talk about this, and figures, right? Hang on a minute. This is extremely important because we're talking about verification.
I'll pull up the Judicial Watch story here.
There's an affidavit by David Manners. It's
newly released documents confirm White House officials set Hillary Clinton's Benghazi response. And the title does not tell at all. Judicial Watch, this is from the 29th of June, released new State Department document showing that Hillary Clinton and the State Department's response to the Benghazi attack was immediately determined by top Obama White House officials, particularly Ben Rhodes, then White House Deputy Strategic Communications Advisor, and Bernadette Mahan, a spokesman for the National Security Council. New documents were forced from the U.S. State Department under court order in the Judicial Watch Freedom of Information Act lawsuit. And it goes to give a timeline.
This is really, this verifies everything I've written about Benghazi. This verifies the fact that
they knew it was a terrorist attack. One,
yes,
this verifies that,
and then they knew beforehand they knew beforehand, but see, that's kind of a deflection away from what's really important. If you look at the documentation that was released, this was last Friday now. In that Friday document dump, I believe it was, or the previous Friday, I'm not sure which, but federal court documents were embedded in this release of documents. There was a sworn declaration to District Court of Arizona dated May 5th, 2015. There's a career CIA officer by the name of David Manners. Here's his statement in a sworn declaration to a court. Now listen to what a career CIA officer David Manners said. And I quote, "It was then and remains now my opinion that the United States did participate directly or indirectly in the supply of weapons to the Libyan Libyan Transitional National Council. In the spring of 2011, the Libyan opposition was not recognized. Okay, this was a loosely knit group in Libya that was kind of being formed with the help of the CIA, our CIA, obviously, and British intelligence, and the Israeli Mossad and others. Okay, this was to go against Gaddafi. But what was taking place at the same time? Enter a guy by the name of Mark Turi, T-U-R-I. He's the president of Turi Defense Group. Now, Mark Turi suddenly finds himself at the epicenter of a federal investigation over the source and end user of weapons that he had supplied to the country of Qatar. In 2011, I just want to just put this in context. In 2011, there were 86,000 licenses granted. Did you know that? By the way, did you know this, that the State Department can grant a license to somebody to be an international arms broker?
No.
How cool is that, right? I mean, no, I don't mean that really, but
so you can sell guns,
broker arms to countries. So there were 86,000 licenses granted in 2011. Now compare that to 86,000 licenses granted in 2011, amounting to $44.3 billion worth of weapons. In the year before, between 2010 and 2011, the dollar amount increased by $10 billion. I mean, we saw an incredible number of licenses being granted for international weapons brokering, and we saw an incredible increase in the dollar amount of weapons being sold on the open market. Here's the key to this. The United States filed suit against Mark Turi and Turi Defense Group. Enter this CIA officer by the name of David Manners. Now, he identifies himself as having 18 years' experience as an intelligence officer with the CIA. He's been at foreign posts as chief of station in Czechoslovakia, in Jordan. And Manners also identified himself as the executive assistant to the deputy director of the NSA. Manners has stated that Obama and the Obama team and members of Congress knew about weapons flowing into Libya and out of Libya during the Arab Spring of 2011. What was taking place was there was a shadow CIA and a shadow State Department, just like we told you. Just exactly like we told you. Weapons were being diverted out of Libya into the hands of Syrian terrorists. And many of the terrorists who had received the weapons have now become known as part of ISIS. Mm-hmm. Okay, so just imagine this. You've got Obama, Hillary Clinton, Huma Abedin, her body person, with connections to the Muslim Brotherhood from Obama, Clinton, and Huma, working together to destabilize, and effectively so, Libya and Egypt, using American arms weapons merchants to sell weapons to the various Middle East nations, including Qatar, having some of those weapons diverted to the Syrian terrorists to destabilize the Assad regime, and also to take out Gaddafi, all without congressional approval. Although some of the Gang of Eight, knew. These are indictable offenses. These are criminal offenses. And yet you've got the Soros-backed websites and political websites saying that this is all just a myth, it's a hoax. It's incredible. So, and just as a side note, Mark Turi, his house was raided by federal agents, and for the last 3 years he's been on the run, so to speak. He's been being he's being hassled by the feds. But March of 2011, that was a busy time for Hillary Clinton. The emails, and this is why her emails are so important, because the emails would show this knowledge of this black ops arms, not arms sale, from American arms merchants. Not only that, but it would show that we were taking the Libyan weapons and destroying the ones that didn't work, taking the ones that did by way of Chris Stevens, and arming the Syrian terrorists in order to overthrow Assad. And by doing so, we were also arming Al-Qaeda, which has become ISIS in that area. And this is the how ISIS was formed. And you've got John McCain in the thick of this, at the epicenter of this. Perhaps, I'm just not picking on Obama here, or Clinton. There's enough blame to go around here, but it's very possible that this would also show John McCain as being part of a criminal enterprise. So this is huge. Mm-hmm. And now, see, Fox knew this. I had talked to people at Fox. They knew this on the 12th of September, on the 14th of September. of 2012. And now they're just getting around saying, yeah, okay, yeah, looks like you were right. I mean, not directly, but you get the idea. All right.
Let's do this. Let's take a few phone calls. We want to hear from you. Give us a call at 661-244-9839. That's 661-244-9839. Press 1.
Sure.
On hold. Let's start with area code 804. 804. You're our first call of the night. Welcome to the Hagmann Hagmann Report.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, it's Maria. Hi, guys.
Good evening. How you doing?
All righty. I had a little news item here. It's there's some Christian bakers in Oregon that didn't want to do a wedding cake for a lesbian couple. This is another set of bakers, and they were given a fine of $135,000 they have to pay to that couple. Boy, that's good business, isn't it? All you got to do is find someone that doesn't want to do a wedding cake for you. You could go to a bunch of people and get rich real quick like that, couldn't you?
Sure, that's the Kleins you're talking about, I believe, right?
Yeah. Sweet Cakes by Melissa.
Right.
Is what the outfit is. It's in Oregon.
She did raise a lot of money, right, Marie?
What's that?
She raised a lot of money, if I'm not mistaken, or they raised. Is this the same?
No, this is something totally different.
Okay.
It was a pizza place that raised the money, or actually people just gave it to them. But on this place now, what they've done is the commissioner of the Bureau of Labor and Industry. So we're not even talking a regular judge; we're talking a bureaucrat. He gave them an order to cease and desist from publishing, circulating, issuing, or displaying, or causing to be published any communication to the effect, telling anybody why they didn't want to do the wedding cake. In other words, it's a gag order.
Exactly.
They've been stripped of their freedom of religion and their freedom of speech just by some bureaucrat.
That's right.
We're not even talking a proper court procedure here. This is not good.
You're correct. The Daily Signal, it's a publication of the Heritage Foundation, states that Oregon Labor Commissioner Brad Avakian ordered Aaron and Melissa Klein to, and I quote, cease and desist from openly professing that they won't serve gay weddings because of their Christian beliefs. And he cited this Oregon state law in his ruling that you just referenced there, which is ridiculous because it effectively strips them of their First Amendment rights. And they've got now no freedom of religion and now no freedom of speech.
So it's not just the Supreme Court that trumps the Constitution. Any old bureaucrat can do it.
In this case, it certainly appears that way. And I've got, I don't get why Oregon seems to be at the epicenter of numerous cases like this. I mean, this is not the only one, but it's certainly one of the higher profile ones.
Well, maybe they've got well-organized activists out there.
Oh, that's yeah. They're heavily funded, well organized indeed. But yeah, you're correct. I mean, this
is a good way to get heavily funded, isn't it?
Well, you mean the government?
In other words, the lesbians that wanted the wedding got $135,000. Now, if they're zealous for their cause, some of that will go to the organization that's the activist organization that's backing them.
Right. That's correct.
So that's one way these guys can get heavily funded. But I think this, I'll tell you something I ran into the other day. I was in a bank, and there was a guy there who was in front of me. He was he looked like he was in one of these, real guy-type jobs, construction work or something like this. And he was an older man with a beard, gray beard, so he grew up in the days when men were men. And it wasn't a hippie beard. It was trimmed and orderly, So this is a guy that you would expect to have some common sense and some backbone. And I made a few general comments. We were talking a little bit, and he was kind. He let me go ahead of him because I was using a cane. so I wouldn't have to stand as much. And I said, boy, it's nice to see real gentlemen. And we were talking a little bit. Then I made just a very general comment about how, since the 60s with the sex and drugs and rock and roll, that could explain a lot of what we see going on in Congress and in the courts and stuff, because a lot of those people who were taking drugs back then and living wild back then are now judges and congressmen and tenured college professors and things like that. This guy became so scared. He said, I never talk about politics or religion. I mean, he was scared. He was scared to say a word.
Yep.
Even on a general comment like that about not having common sense because they took drugs back then. Some of these drugs mess up your mind and your common sense, like cocaine does. He was obviously, seriously scared. And he's the kind of guy that he looked like the kind of guy that if you were in trouble in the dark alley, he'd be right in there he'd wade right in and rescue you, But he was scared to death to say a word. And so I can see the level of intimidation out there. You say anything, you could get sued, or you could wind up in jail or lose your home or whatever just because you said one word about something.
Sure.
I mean, that's, I think, a sign of the times.
Unfortunately, it is, and it was. We have the playbook from the homosexual agenda. They're not demanding equal rights. They're not demanding non-discrimination. They're demanding this special protected class. In fact, they don't want to legitimize homosexuality. They want to delegitimize heterosexual relationships. I know that sounds quite.
And I don't even like the word heterosexual. It's normal. Normal relationships. Hetero versus homo makes it sound like they're sort of comparable. You know what I mean?
Right. And
I mean, we have to say that because that's the vocabulary people use, but even using that term changes the perception.
Well, up until what, I think 1973, the word homosexual was hyphenated. If you want to get into the semantics, or language, you're absolutely correct. Heterosexual, homosexual, homosexual, it was not a single word. It was hyphenated, and that has a different meaning altogether when you hyphenate the word. So you're correct.
And I don't use the word gay because that's just a facade.
Right.
The ones I've personally known are all smiling and cheerful on the surface, and underneath they're miserable.
No.
And some are very angry, and some can turn from being very sensitive and compassionate to being just vicious. Boom. And I'm not generalizing because not everybody's like that, but I've seen that happen. And particularly when they feel they're in a position of power. Now, I heard a pastor say an interesting thing. He said they can't just have you let them alone to do what they want to do because deep down their conscience is telling them they shouldn't be doing it. So they want you to side with them against their conscience. That's the way he put it.
That's kind of a twisted way of looking at it, isn't it? I mean, or am I missing something?
No, I mean, I understand that. They're looking for proof.
The deep down, they know better. At some level, they know better. And if the whole world goes along with what they're doing, well, that way they feel like it must be right because everybody's doing it. But if anybody doesn't go along with what they're doing, that stirs up that conscience, and they want to kill the conscience. They don't want that conscience to have a voice.
Okay. All right. So
they want you to side with them against their conscience so they won't feel bad about what they're doing. Now, right. I must say there's one gal I knew, a gal named Jessica, who was the sweetest gal, and she wound up bisexual because men treated her so bad. And it's her father that set her up for it. When she was 16, he took her to get birth control place and got her a birth control and turned her loose. And he made it obvious he expected her to be sleeping around like crazy. So, of course, guys treated her like trash. She was a real sweet girl. But she just got all messed up. And then she'd get so hurt by them, she'd try women, and the women hurt her, and she'd go back to the guys. And back then, I didn't have enough understanding to be able to help her, and I've lost touch with her over the years. But she was a sweet girl. She never would have tried to force anybody to do anything. And she was just trying to find somebody to be nice to her and appreciate her, which is, reasonable. But she'd never been given any. Well, her parents set her up for it. Huh. I mean, they just absolutely said, oh, and in her house everybody ran around naked all the time. So there was no modesty from the time she was a little girl. So, I mean, super modern whatevers. This was back 1962 when I went to Barnard, freshman at Barnard. So, she just got set up for that. Well, she didn't have a mean bone in her body, and that girl wouldn't put pressure on anybody or do anything mean to anybody. She was just a hurting, sweet girl. And I hope she found somebody nice that could help her straighten out and get her on the right path. I pray for her over the years, but I've totally lost track of her. So I'm not trying to generalize, okay? Every individual case is different, but it's just that I think that's behind a lot of the intensity of these activists. Everybody's got to go along with what we're doing because that proves we're right. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Do I agree with it? No, I mean, yeah, I understand. I think there's some slippery ground there, personally, but unless I'm missing something, unless I'm missing the intent, the picture.
Well, they feel like it proves it. If everybody's doing it, it must be all right, is the feeling. Of course, that's never true.
It's like an alcoholic.
It's based on what God told us.
Right.
It's like gave us a conscience.
Yeah, it's like an alcoholic trying to get approval from, other people.
Yeah, and trying to get everybody else to drink.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got to get everybody else to drink. Right.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of principle. Yeah.
All right. Well, interesting.
Anyway, understanding mechanics a little of the mechanics behind it doesn't solve the problems at all. It just, I guess it does do one thing.
I think we need to understand the mechanics behind this to understand the problem, because you only have at best 3.5% of the population who are classified as within the LGBT classification. Alfred Kinsey, he through his fraudulent studies and practices, much celebrated, said, "Oh no, it's 10% or higher," and of course, got into the pedophilia aspect, and so we've been lied to for better part of a half a century, or more.
And
than
Margaret Mead, remember Coming of Age in Samoa? That was a pack of lies. Absolute pack of lies. That wasn't their culture at all. Virginity was a big thing for them. And if a woman wasn't virgin when she got married, women committed suicide over that. It was a huge thing. She knew better. The missionaries knew better. She barely knew the language and didn't want to understand the people. She just had an agenda she was trying to push with this fraudulent anthropology research. So it's the same thing.
Yep. No, you're
well,
right.
If they're wearing a white lab coat and they have a PhD after their name, then you have to accept what they say, right?
Well, so they want us to believe, but in fact that's not the case. I mean,
of course not.
Yeah. Yep.
But it's just like, say you have a Hindu priest wearing his priestly garments and he tells you these wild stories about a guy with an elephant's head. Well, he must know because he's a Hindu priest, right? You just swallow it because of his position and what he's wearing and the authority he claims. And we're doing the same thing. And the stuff we're swallowing makes no more sense than Hindu mythology. It's just as insane.
You're right on with that.
Anyway, well, I know you've got other callers, so I don't want to tie up your time.
Thank you.
But
thank you very much for this information.
One thing, though, we can pray for God to stir up the consciences of His people and break through to them.
Yes, we can.
Because if they're fighting it that hard, then there's something under there that God's working on them. So we can pray that God will get through to them. one of these guys, some of these guys will be like Saul, who turned into Paul, you know? Get set free, come out of it, get on fire for God, and expose it, and help others get out of it. Lord, we do ask for that right now, in Jesus' name.
Yep, amen.
And I encourage people to pray for that, because, I mean, Jesus died for these people too, and he wants them to get saved. So they're not our enemies, they're deceived. It's like a drug addict or alcoholic or whatever, or it's more complicated because the emotional thing involved is much more involved. Dealing with people is different than dealing with a substance like alcohol. You know what I mean? They're all interactions and soul ties and whatevers. But God can set some of these guys free and give them the guts to take a stand afterwards. So Lord, I ask you do that.
Amen. Very good.
Amen. God bless you guys.
All right. Thanks
Bye-bye.
for the call. It's interesting, folks, that when was it? It was 2003. Stanley Kurtz. I don't know if people are familiar with him. National Review author. He wrote the following: "The storm that will break over America after but a single vote legalizes." Now, I'm using the word gay here. These are his words. I'm quoting from him, okay? The storm that will break over America after but a single vote legalizes gay marriage will surely be a moment of decisive social reckoning. In the wake of the first legalization, the battle over gay marriage will be characterized by rapidly escalating confrontation, followed by a radical nationwide resolution as soon as even a single state legalizes same-sex marriage. The nation will be plunged into a furious legal, political, and cultural struggle. Now, let me interject something here. That this is intended by the people in power. Okay, this is a war from within that's intended. He writes, and I continue with a quote: "The bitter and ongoing polarization in even an exceedingly liberal state like Vermont is a clear foreshadowing of the conflict to come, as legal and political battles over traveling couples spread from state to state. The chaos will multiply, and the courts, already inclined to mandate same-sex marriage, will grow increasingly receptive to arguments that the full faith and credit clause demands national gay marriage, and the even stronger arguments for nationally mandated gay marriage under the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause will also find favor in the courts." This is Stanley Kurtz writing in National Review. And when he was warning about what happened on November 18th, 2003, when Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court, now this isn't a 4-3 opinion, citing the Provincial Court of Ontario. Can you believe this? This court used a foreign country, Canadian court, as a source for legal precedent. They ruled that same-sex couples have a newly discovered right to marry. Isn't that interesting? The Massachusetts court radically redefined marriage for the citizens of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, folks. And who was at the helm at that point in time? Can you say Mitt Romney? Mitt Romney acquiesced to this and says, "Oh, we've got to follow the law now." No, we don't. No, we don't. And I'm going to say right now, right here, right now, if I could bake a cake and deny my services to same-sex couples, I would. And I would be in contempt of whatever man court there is. I would not acquiesce to any of these unconstitutional laws, for a law that goes against the Constitution is no law at all. So what in the hell are you folks celebrating out there with the rainbow shirts? You hijacked the rainbow, the symbol of God, for crying out loud.
505 area code. We're coming to you now. You're live on the Hagmann Hagmann Report. 505.
Go ahead, 505. Does that scare you off?
All
right. Yeah, go ahead. You're up.
Yeah, Joe, Doug, been listening to you guys for a while, and I got to say, you guys have changed your format somewhat. I mean, I used to really enjoy listening to you guys. I haven't listened to you guys for recently, but I'm just kind of curious as to why you guys just changed your format.
What are you talking about? Be very specific when you say we're...
I'm sorry. Okay, let me be more specific. I mean, I remember the first time I listened to you was back, I think it was like in 2004, 2003 on Coast to Coast. You were on with Steve Quayle back at the time. And
right.
I thought, hey, I like listening to Doug. Doug seems like Steve not so much. I mean, I know I'm just going through the things and I see that it seems like it's Steve's show. I mean, I like listening to you and Joe because you guys seem authentic. I mean, I've listened to Alex and then this guy Rick Wiles on the other thing. I mean, but it seemed like you guys, even my wife used to say, man, those guys, we really enjoyed your show. I haven't been able to because of time and the work and stuff like that. But I just got saddened because it seems like it's Steve Quayle's show anymore, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I mean, because I do really enjoy listening to your show. Because like Joe, things when he says things, it seems like he's really being authentic, and I just kind of curious. When did you guys change the format? I mean, religious, yes. I mean, because I'm a spiritual person, but I mean, it just seems like you guys have all these guys that are just. It's not you guys anymore. I mean, it's like, like my wife said, hey, let's send them some money one time. And I don't know if she did or she didn't, but you guys were something to listen to. And now it's like, it's always Steve Quayle. And I'm sorry, but I used to like to listen to Steve Quayle, but ever since he had an argument with Ian Plummet back in the days, I think it was in, 2008, 2009, I stopped listening to the show because it was like always around the corner, but you guys are always, authentic, and I'm sorry I hope I'm not offending
Joe,
you guys by
Joe,
saying
you want to Joe, you want to take this?
Well, I mean, I don't know that we've changed our format so much, but since we went from LBN to back to Blog Talk, Steve's been an integral part of this show, and he doesn't come on just to come on. He really comes on only when he's led to or needed.
What have we done different? Let me ask you this, because the only thing I've heard so far is kind of a bias against Steve Quayle, which okay.
And I don't mean to be that way. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's more more of an interaction between you and Joe.
Right.
It seems authentic, But when I used to like. I listened a couple of times when you had Stan Deo. I think I saying his right name right, and because he's interesting. But I mean, sometimes and I hope I'm not being offending people, but you have a lot of these religious guys come on, and they're like, it's like they're predicting the next world coming to an end. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to listen to that. I want to listen to what Doug and Joe have to say. It's like, and it's your show, but I'm just wondering, are you guys going to start getting back to that same thing? Because a lot of times now that I can start listening to your show more often, if it says Steve Quayle or if it says like that Tom Horn guy, or these guys, they write a lot of books, and I've done a lot of research, and I see they spend a lot of. To buy their books, I bought a book with Steve Quayle a long time ago, and it was like, he's not telling me something I don't know. I mean, if anything, if people can look at it on the, they can look on the internet and research it. Like same thing with Tom Horn and that guy you just had not too long ago. I forget his name, McGuire. A lot of, and then I don't even want to get started with that Rick Wiles guy. That guy's, I never seen anybody talk to the Holy Spirit more than, I don't think even Peter and Paul back in the days of the apostles were talking to the Holy Spirit like he is every day. So I just hope you guys get back to it. And I hope I don't offend you guys by saying this, but I just hope you guys get back to just interacting with each other. I think everybody likes it, even in the chat room, I noticed.
All right. Well, thanks for the call. I appreciate that.
And thank you, Doug. It was a pleasure talking to both of you, Joe and
right.
Doug. Thank you.
Thanks for the call. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Oh, didn't mean to cut him off there at the end, but no, we do have a lot of quite a few emails asking us about one thing. I'll say, I don't know if he took this away from it, but differing guest opinions. And we bring people on the show to share their point of view. And everything that the Lord told us that we need to know is in a book called the Bible that we
right.
have. These books that, and this is another email we get a lot, is, so many books, and we understand,
which is why we reference the books and we cite the books. It's not,
and why we have people on to talk about them.
Right. So you don't have to buy them, okay? We're not pushing books. We're not peddling books. We are attempting to inform based on our research from the books, not just from the books that are for sale, but for books that are out of print, from archives, from even, hey, I found myself a couple of weeks ago at the library going through newspaper, the archives of newspaper, microfiche, okay?
Yeah, and some people, this is how they make their living, off of books. And so...
but look, I get that. I mean, that's why I like to say we do the research.
People feel pressured a lot, to buy books and to buy.
They should.
Yeah, we're not trying to make people feel pressured into buying anything. We're just trying to offer a platform to reach people. It's a platform of truth and of the Lord, and a lot of the people that come on have books. Some don't. All of them have differing opinions, but you take all these opinions and you take them to the Lord in prayer, and you do the research, because nobody's gonna, not all the guests are gonna agree on everything. Everybody has different things they see coming down the pipe, and the Holy Spirit reveals different things to different people for different reasons. And I just think that we do have a lot of guests on, some reoccurring, but I think the content is very.
Look, we're right now. The time is short, folks. The time is extremely short. I hope everyone knows that, and we have to stop dilly-dallying around and pussyfooting around the truth, and we have to get right down to the heart of the matter. We have to identify the perpetrators of this new world order crap that's overtaking our country. We have to stop being so doggone politically correct. The hell with that, okay? I'm done being politically correct. There is no such thing as political correctness, because when you begin tolerating evil, you can't do that. All right, you can't make excuses for perversion, for the perversion of our lifestyle, or of our. You cannot pervert our beliefs. You cannot allow that perversion to stand. And like I said at the beginning of the program, where the heck is it? I think I threw it here. Here it is, right here.
Throw that book.
No, I tossed it. And let me just reiterate this, okay? Because this is really, I'm kind of frustrated here. What we're trying to do is through information. Anyone who says that we don't need to know how we got here to know how to get the heck out of where we're at. Well, okay. It's like having the playbook of the enemy. If you have their playbook, it's a heck of a lot easier if you know what the plays are. Look, if you're that intelligent, really, and I'm being very serious about this, if you're that intelligent and you already know everything, don't listen. Go out and do whatever you need to do. Fight the battle. Get some skin in the game. But those people who become men and women become accomplices to those evils they fail to oppose. Well, we oppose the evils by exposing the evils. Don't we? Maybe I just got up on the wrong side today.
You did. You should put your head down and fall back asleep, and when you get up on the other side, maybe you'll have a smile on your face. Folks, you're listening to the Hagmann Hagmann Report on this Monday, July 6, 2015. We're going to be right back.
July 6, 2015. I'm Doug Hagmann in the studio with Joe Hagmann. Together we are the Hagmann Hagmann Report. I want to just mention this. Right now we face a problem. There are many groups and organizations right now who are working to establish a world government and a new world religion. Can we agree that is the end game objective of the groups that are out there, of the people that are out there, to establish a one world government and a new world religion, kind of the resurgence of Babylon. That's what's taking place. The media is lying to us. Conservative groups are deceiving us. Conservative men and women, so-called conservative men and women, are lying to us, deceiving us. Our political leaders are doing everything possible to keep us from learning the identity of those behind the power structure. And speaking of books, okay, we have invested. We've got over 1,000 books in our library. In fact, I keep promising to post pictures. I'm going to do this, but there's a guy that by the name of Professor Carroll Quigley who died in 1976. You might remember William Jefferson Clinton speaking about him and praising Carroll Quigley being his professor at one point. And Quigley had written a number of books, including Tragedy and Hope, Anglo-American Establishment, and if you read what Quigley wrote and begin to understand the truth behind what we're being told, the lies that we're being told, the research that he conducted. I'm not trying to elevate Quigley at all, because he agreed with the agenda, certainly. And you start picking out the actors. You start picking out people like Cecil Rhodes, his secret society. You start picking out others. They're the various secret societies that have permeated the world and our nation, and the people who are part of these secret groups today, the bankers, the CFRs, Trilateral Commission. You look at the H.G. Wells. He wrote about the secret society in his book, The New Machiavelli. Okay, experiment in what was it? It doesn't matter. But if you look at the people in history, the socialists, the Fabian socialists, the communists, the outright communists. You look at people like H.G. Wells, George Bernard Shaw, Bertrand Russell, Sir Edward Grey, Lord Cecil, Milner. You've got to go back into time a little bit to understand the formation of the people, of how we got here. You've got to do that. And with respect to books, it doesn't matter. See, what we've done is amass the library, and we do the research so you don't have to do that. And this is how we try to educate everyone and inform, because with knowledge comes power to fight this absolutely tyrannical force where they have the power structure, the power elite, the powers behind the faces that are up there, the Obamas and the Pelosi's and the Boehners and all these idiots up there, the powers that have them dangling on a string. All right, they are the ones that are dragging us into this new world order and shoving tyranny down our throats. They're the ones that are telling you and me that we're the enemies, that as Christians we're the enemies. We have become so intolerant of others that we must be re-educated, and they intend to re-educate us, and those that they can't re-educate or rehabilitate, they're going to exterminate. And if people don't understand that, and if they don't understand that right now, damn quickly, then you know what? We won't have a history. There won't be history books to look back, at least not any type of legitimate history books to look back and say, hey, this is when we went off the rails, and these are the people who took us off the rails. No, it's all going to be expunged, as we will be. There's a war on right now, and it's a war against Christians. It's a war against truth, and we attempt to bring you the truth through the people that we bring on the air. And if some of it's repetitive, well, so be it. If some of it is hard to swallow, or if you know it, well, then God bless you if you know it. And go out there and be the tip of the spear, be the salt and light, and go out and make a presence, make your presence known, and make a difference. That's all I got to say. Go ahead.
Let's go back to the phones. We have a number of callers on hold. We're going to try and get to each and every one of you. Let's start with area code 605. 605, we're coming to you now, live on the Hagmann Hagmann Report.
Hi. I would really, like to thank you for having so many diversified guests with differing opinions, because I actually download a lot of your shows. It's harder now to do it. I have to use my daughter's computer, but I download them onto MP3 players, and I bring them to people that can't. they have no way to hear you. They have no way to hear about what's actually going on because the world they live in is, well, it's a lot different than the world most people do live in. And I appreciate being able to do that for them. And people like Stephen, Pastor Langford, and Russ, and the both of you, Coach Dave, Pastor Kyle, there's so many. I even downloaded one of Greg Evenson's CDs with some singing on it. There's a lot of people that depend on the differing points of view and the spiritual background that your shows provide. And there's going to be people that can't handle that. And there's nothing that any of us can do about that. Believe me, I deal with it every day. But I appreciate your fortitude and your guests' fortitude and their knowledge and their experience. And if I had the ability, I'd have a lot of books. But I've been ripped off a lot in the past couple of years, and I don't have the ones I even started with. I do have my Bible, though. And
that's all you need.
In that, I find so many things that I wouldn't find if I was squawking around at people. For me, it's a lot of how you look at people, how you see people. If you see somebody and they're in your face, they're still a vessel, just like I am, and they're full of what they're carrying. I have a choice. I can either meet them with the same kind of negative spiritual energy, or I can not do that, set an example, and stand on my example. You know, the whole rainbow thing, don't go there with me. I ripped a sticker off a guy's window. I got in some trouble for it, but, you know, enough is enough.
I don't know why I'm laughing, but what was the offensive sticker?
Well, he's a militant, and I don't even know all the letters that go with the whole thing, but he's a homosexual male who's pretty militant, and he just got in my face. And because I'm sorry, I'm not going to sit there and just mumble around. No, if you get in my face, or if, you know, the girl you're with hits on me, then I'm going to tell you that I don't like that. Might not even be real nice.
Are we going to have to start a legal defense fund for you because of this? I'm kidding around, I guess, but
no. I just refuse to give him the sticker back, and I refuse to replace it because I have rights too, and I don't care. I believe in Jesus, and if other people don't, then that's their thing. But I have the freedom of speech. I live in America, and if I want to say that I believe in God and that rainbow is a symbol of covenant to me and a sacred symbol, and you perverted it and don't rub it in my face, because I'll walk over there and take your sticker off your car. And he calls me a homophobic, and I walk over and peel the sticker off his car and crinkled it up in front of his face and said, no, I'm just really offended. I have rights too. And the cop came and told me I needed to be more tolerant, and I said, no, I think I'm not the one that's being intolerant. I have my beliefs. I have the right to express them. I'm not being militant.
Wow. Yeah. Well, hey, would you bake a cake for us? No, I'm kidding. No, it's interesting. You know, tolerance seems to be a one-way street, doesn't it? And I'm not.
And we talked about this not too long ago. That, you know, how the definition of tolerance has been changed to intolerant, or how the meaning of tolerance is really intolerant in today's politically correct society.
Yeah, exactly.
Tolerance is, I don't know. I'm not tolerant of a lot of things, and it's probably one reason I'm sitting out in the middle of a parking lot talking to you on the phone right now. Because when you're not tolerant of things and you don't go with the flow, then your life changes. And the best thing people could do is, instead of sitting there criticizing everybody, they should go camping. They should use some of their supplies and know how they work before they have to throw them all together and get out in the woods and find out they don't know how to use them.
Boy, I'm glad you brought that up, because I would recommend people. There's this mindset among people, and I've fallen into this too. And thank you, because this is a very productive area that we probably should address. If you believe, for example, that we might be having to live without power, then turn off your power for a weekend and see how you fare. If you believe you're going to have to live in the woods for a while, spend a weekend in the woods and see how you fare. Use your preps, try them out, because you don't want to be learning new things or everything, learning everything when you're in a crisis situation. You want to be able to do what you have learned. So thank you for pointing that out. I really believe that the preppers out there need to practice. We need to do that.
Absolutely. And the next time you see somebody that doesn't have a place to live, or they're rougher than you are right now, don't look at them like they're beneath you by any means.
Oh, no. Not at all.
Just say a small prayer for them as you walk by.
Or give them, a hand up. Yeah, it's whatever we need to do to help those people. And I believe that we need to help people as best we can. For those who are down on their haunches, we need to help them up. If of course they want help, and if they're asking for help, I think it's our duty. So, but you point out a number of interesting topics, and thank you so much for listening, and thanks for validating the guests that we have on. I appreciate that, and we're going to try to make it easier for you to listen. I don't know how we can do that, but our new YouTube channel is going to be a way to download the shows as well. We have on SoundCloud smaller files. We're doing our best to spread the word out throughout multiple platforms.
Yeah, I got to get another laptop. That's all. Mine kind of fried.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Well, God bless you. Thanks so much for the call, dear. Appreciate it.
Have a great night.
Thank you very much, and have a great night. God bless you.
All right.
God bless you, too. Let's move right along here. Area code 231. 231, we're coming to you now. Live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey.
Good evening.
Don't change the format, whatever you do.
We're not even sure what the format is.
Yeah, I didn't get it either, but the format has been to assess, evaluate, and to share with everybody what the elite have been doing on a daily, hourly basis, dismantling the foundations of what God founded and ordained. That's what you all been doing, and thank God for you. Absolutely, brother. And that's what's been going on. Has been my observation of your show, and those who are awake and have been sharing and doing the same kind of thing. That's what we're all been doing, is assessing the breathtaking events as they dismantle or fundamentally try to transform us. Which is, how do you do that? I'm not the best son of the Most High, but I'm one of them. So you can't say, hey, he's not your dad. Like, well, okay, but that ain't gonna fly.
That's right.
Because it's all based on love and the truth, and all they have to offer is fallacies, lie, and deception. And the Bible tells us that Satan is, the great deceiver. So it's a ball to watch, all this deception. And this, the emptiness of their souls try to, create this insanity of a one world, And, we know they're probably going to succeed, but,
I feel that way.
Grab their hearts and say, hey, come on, God loves you. I love you. These people are insane. They want to decimate everything that's good, true, and honest, and this is Satan doing the same thing he's always tried to do. It's just manifested itself through our entire society, and people have made themselves, they're godless, heartless and soulless, and they've latched onto this insanity. God's allowed them to rise up to, to come against us, because this is all about us as His children. We've turned our backs. We're going to reap what we've sown. We can't get together. We're all hypnotized or drugged up from what they've offered, and throughout society. This is beyond amazing. That what in the world? You got the Hagmann and Hagmann show. You got all these other notables that we deal with and talk to and relate to all the time about this, the goings on, and yet we can't get together and go say, hey, enough is enough. Barack, you're under arrest. You're insane, and you and your cohorts, you're going to jail. I don't get it. So this God has to be ordaining this or allowing all this to happen.
Well, it's
I don't know.
As I like to say, it's early yet. I mean, give me a push and I can kind of move in that direction. No, I shouldn't say that. I guess what I'm saying is, at some point we have to really engage the enemy. I really believe that at some point this is going to go from a strictly verbal ideological confrontation to something much more severe. I do believe that, and I do believe that they're pushing us to that. Now, I certainly am not going to draw first blood, or certainly not going to create that situation, but I'm not going to run from it either. I think that there's,
Well,
go ahead.
Well, what really concerns me is I listen to you, Doug. I hear your rants and raves, and do me a favor, my brother, stop apologizing when you're done. Okay? Because
okay.
I drive truck across the country, and I listen to you all the time. And when you get done getting kicked off, I'm like, sing it, brother. That's the only thing that is coming out of my mouth. Don't apologize for crying out loud. You know what I mean? No, you're right. How dare you say you're sorry? You're speaking for all of us. These morons want to kill everybody. This is Satan coming, being turned loose. And now, we're not sorry, Satan. Sorry, pal. You're going to hell. You're going back, Jack. God's going to win. We're going to win in the end here. But yeah. No, my big concern is I'm with you. And I'm ready to jump.
Yeah.
Defend myself, my family, my friends, my country. It's God, family, country with me and my dad and his dad. This is who we are. This is who our country is. But because of the fact that I'm very cognizant of the realities of the sin and what God has allowed and throughout history, as nations rise and fall because of their sin, as He allows their enemies to overthrow them and overtake them, and He pulls His hand back and allows these things to happen because the people had turned their backs as we have done in this country. So I'm ready just to jump right up and take the head of the spear and get go make citizens arrest on these fools or whatever. But I won't allow myself to cross that line, unless I'm in serious prayer and I know that God is leading me. Because if I just go off of my emotions, it's the wrong thing to do. So that's what my that's why people can't just go let your emotions run you and think, okay, I've had enough of all this insanity. I'm going to go, get 500 people together and go do this or that. Brother, you better hope God's in control of it, because if not, you're deader than a doornail or you lose. God has to bless what we're doing. So
that's very true. Well, thanks, my brother. We appreciate. I certainly appreciate your words, and I really pray for your safe travels, being a truck driver. And I suspect that you see a lot out there, and you see the de-evolution or dissolution of our country, don't you?
More so than yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm right up to speed, Doug. You know, I'm right up to speed. You know, you want to talk about military movement? I'm there. Let's go. It seems to be quieted down out here. I think they've moved everything into positions to wherever they're going to do whatever they're going to do. You know, so it's it could be the handful of things they have at their access to, the triggers to pull to and if they do them all at once or whatever. I mean, they've got all the turnstiles built on top of all the get-off ramps and everything, and people are like half asleep about this. It's like, you notice all the turnstiles everywhere? Well, maybe just being paranoid, but I know the things that are coming. I know that they're going to have.
Tell the listeners, if you don't mind, please tell the listeners about the turnstiles. A lot of people are not aware of what you're referring to, and I think it's an important point here.
Sure. I mean, I could be absolutely wrong, and like I said, I could be just being paranoid, but I am very cognizant of the realities that they have control over all of the natural resources, which we are so dependent upon, and without them we die. Water, food, et cetera, et cetera. And when they pull the plug and they're going to have everyone acquiesce into what it is they desire, whether it be the RFID chip, you have to convert over if this is a part of their, their new monetary system and control mechanisms that they're going to implement and bring into fruition. We have to acquiesce because we have to drink water and eat food, and they have control over all of this stuff. And if when they go martial law on us, whether it's EMP or biological or whatever they're up to, and they impose this military movement on our society and shut everything down. Well, if you notice all these, which used to be just intersections, they're not intersections anymore. There's a big circle thing you built in the middle of the intersection. You kind of got to go around it. Well, I believe what will happen is when they shut things down, all the intersections, the free travel will cease in a blink of an eye, and you're going to see military equipment established, set up on these turnstiles, controlling. The turnstiles are to slow the movement down, to give the military control over the people. That's what I believe they're for.
The roundabouts are often. Yeah, roundabouts, they're called.
Exactly.
Yep.
I hope I'm wrong. Believe me, I pray that I'm wrong. But no, they're like the towers. They all popped up overnight. And, yeah, I was born at night, but it wasn't last night,
Oh, brother, I enjoyed your call. I really did. I just
look. We love you guys and we appreciate you. I really do. And
thanks, man.
I pray for you. And Joe, I love it when you read the Word. Your dad needs to hear it. My children's dad needs to hear it. We all need to hear it. And through this show of yours, you're only going to know when you get to heaven what God actually did through your show, the lives you actually touched, and the lives that were saved. So, the format call and the frustrating calls and the lack of feeling of, where we're at in society is like, crap, are we making a difference? Is anything happening? It doesn't seem like it. Hey, you got to just hold the faith. Keep the fight. We'll figure it out sooner or later. We'll get control of this stuff, you know what I mean?
Really,
we're just doing what we're supposed to. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're falling short daily. We have to pick our cross up daily. This is, we're not going to be perfect, and sin's not going to be kept from us until we get to heaven. So we got to deal with this crap on a daily basis. We just have to realize we're carnal and we are going to make mistakes. So let's pick up our crosses. We drop them 4 or 5 times today. Pick it up again. Let's go.
God bless you, my friend. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Love you guys. Take care. Talk to you later. See you, Joe. Bye.
I just want to bring this up. I came across this little bit of information. we talk about the power, the Luciferian elite. Think about this. We talked about sexual deviancy tonight. We talked about homosexuality. Isn't it interesting that apparently when the power elite, the people, the power behind the faces, install a sexual deviant into office, only they are permitted to disclose the perversion. And if you think about it, this is a very important side of their blackmail. For example, why should I toe your line when anyone else can do to me what you have threatened? Think about this. After officiating a homosexual wedding, Joan Rivers was interviewed on the run by the Sunday Times. And you might remember this. A reporter asked, hopefully, when will we see the first homosexual president? Rivers shot back, we already have that with Obama. While walking away, she also stated, Michelle is a tranny. Now, I'm quoting this. Okay, these are not my words. These are Joan Rivers' words. She was asked to apologize. She refused to apologize. She wouldn't back down, and 2 months later, she was dead. The cause of her death, well, non-invasive. There was no cutting of her skin, non-life-threatening medical procedure. All they could say was something went terribly wrong. So wrong, in fact, that at least one doctor is asking if there was malpractice involved. So isn't it interesting to note that it's interesting, I believe, to note that of only 3 people that she banned from her funeral, Michelle Obama was one of them. I mention that only because to look at her recent history and previous history, and we're seeing a lot of dead people turn up. And I was talking with Dave Hodges about Bob Fletcher has he remember when he came on and talked about the death of Sonny Bono, the murder of Sonny Bono?
Vaguely, but yeah.
Yeah. We were talking about that yesterday. I think it was off air. A lot. I mean, there's just so much. There's just so much. It's just incredible. Sorry, I digress, but I just wanted to mention that. I don't know why, but I just thought it was relevant to what we were talking about.
Let's get back to the phones. Area code 808. We're coming to you. Thanks for holding. You're live on the Hagmann Hagmann Report.
Hey, aloha, y'all. Quiet guy calling.
Good evening.
Hi. Yeah, when you were talking about Carol Quigley and Tragedy and Hope, it reflect on, probably 30-some years ago. Dr. Gene Scott, Pastor Gene Scott, was teaching out of that when I first opened my eyes. That's when I first woke up, so to speak. And I just wanted to give a plug for y'all. In fact, a recommendation for an interview. In fact, I just confirmed with him that it's okay to call him for an interview. Jack Flaws is a fellow student of Gene Scott's.
Oh,
okay. Are you familiar with Gene Scott at all?
I'm not.
I've heard the name. Okay.
Yeah, he was actually the first one to broadcast the Word of God globally on the satellite. God, a lot of testimonies about miracles, about fighting the system and his ministry. And, there's a lot of, run-of-the-mill ministries that, condemn him because he smoked pipes and cigars. But nevertheless, he's the best Bible teacher in the world, in my opinion. And, PhD from Stanford in 1957. In any case, the highly relevant to a lot of the prophetic stuff that y'all talk about and this, current affairs is the birthright promises to the house of Israel. The house of Israel and the house of Judah are two separate entities.
Yes. And,
that whole harbinger thing, it's not like a big coincidence that America is, walks like a duck and quacks like a duck. It might be a duck.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the house of Israel. Anyway, if the sun is still shining today and the stars are still coming out, I mean, somewhere in the world, the house of Judah is ruling over the house of Israel. And the birthright promises from Jacob to Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, Ephraim will be a commonwealth of nations, and Manasseh a great nation. And where's the commonwealth of nations today? In any case, and the birthright promises from Abraham, like seed like the stars, like numbered like the stars in the sand of the sea. Anyway, Israel is, the whole lost tribes thing. There's a lot of people that, like wherever the truth is, Satan perverts it, and it got perverted. But nevertheless, the truth is somewhere behind there. Anyway, Jack Flaws. Jack Flaws.
Would you be kind enough to send us an email with his contact information? Just go to our website and hit the contact us form, and that way we've got a paper trail or a digital trail of that. Do you mind doing that?
Okay, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And you can find him on YouTube, Jack Flaws, definitely. And his website is easy. It's stag.ws. And that'll open up stag.ws. And it's full of stuff. He's got a radio program in Northern California that he does.
Okay. We'll have to look at it.
So check it out. Anyway, it's like really relevant, all the stuff that's, about the prophecies, the birthright promises and the judgments and the stuff that's coming on Israel. I mean, America is, it's like a mixed bag. Just like, America was God-ordained, founded, the Pilgrims, a lot of God-ordained stuff in there. But then about the time of George Washington in 1776, when Adam Weishaupt was encouraged by Ansel Rothschild to infiltrate the Mason Guild. And that's when the Illuminati infiltrated the Masons. And George Washington was aware of that in his time. So, the whole Masonic thing, that's when the Masonic thing got infiltrated into the, whole American establishment. But anyway, it's a deep rabbit hole.
It is a deep rabbit hole.
Yeah. But, it's a mixed bag. But anyway, I'll send you an email.
Please do.
Jack Fly. Anyways, he just did a YouTube series about the migrations of the House of Israel when they left, out of Syria. Why do they call us Caucasians? From they crossed over the Caucasus Mountains. The Apocryphal book, Second Esdras, says God shut the headwaters of the Euphrates, so a couple of million Hebrews, House of Israel, could cross over into to the southern part of Russia, the Black Sea side. And in the House of Judah, the Queen Victoria had the royal genealogists trace the heritage of the royal house of England back to Judah, and their heraldry. They got the lions, the lion of the tribe of Judah.
Right.
Anyway, I could write a long time about all that stuff. I've been studying it. But anyway, so I'll send you an email. Jack Flaws on YouTube.
Okay, I've written that down. Yeah, okay. I wrote it down, but I would appreciate an email. That way we've got a record of it.
I sure will. I met you at the Whitestone thing. So God bless you guys. Oh, yeah. And by the way, that last gal that called a couple calls ago, sister that I met there, to have her call Kauai Guy.
Okay.
And God bless you guys. Aloha.
All right.
God bless you too. Thanks. Have a great night.
Thanks. Great call. Wow, fantastic.
Let's go next to area code 540. 540. We're coming to you now. You're live on the Hagmann Hagmann Report.
I thought his voice sounded familiar.
Hey. Hello.
Hey.
Hello.
How you doing? Yeah, we do.
Good. Well, good to hear you guys, man. This is Ron from Virginia, and I sent you an email today But first, let me digress a minute, and let me just go off topic and say, first of all, Doug, Joe, keep doing what you're doing, because let me tell you something about Steve Quayle. I'm a disabled veteran, and he doesn't brag about this. He doesn't even talk about this. But my wife has cancer, and the man has helped me out and been very generous, and he is that way. So his fruits tell exactly what kind of man he is, and just keep doing what you're doing. God bless both of you.
Well, thanks, Ron. Man, it's a tough situation. How are you doing? I mean, how's your wife?
Well, we're making it. It, and with God's help, and we've been listeners for about 3 years. And as a matter of fact, had we not been listeners, we would have never met or even had that connection to Steve Quayle. So that is just one example of how your programming has affected the actual lives of people. I'm a disabled veteran, and like I say, his policy towards the disabled veteran. So just keep doing what you're doing, and I'll leave it at that. I don't want to go off topic.
All right.
I did send you to guys today. Remember last week when you had a DJ on?
Yeah.
And y'all had discussed the circling airplanes, right?
Yep.
Okay.
We did.
On Drudge Report right now, on the left-hand column, there's down on the bottom it says something to the effect, crime-fighting tool that bends time. Now, once you click on that link, it gives you the exact whole scenario of what this is all about. It's a company, and they are called Precision. Let me see here. Precision Systems. Let's see here. Precision Systems. PSS. Anyway, if you go to that link, it will tell all about exactly what's going on with this. What they are doing is, and it even has pictures of the aircraft. They circle these cities, and originally it started off overseas. They used it to track down IEDs. What they do is they go around and take thousands of pictures per second. What that enables them to do is to backtrack these videos and find out where crime is happening. Now, notice you mentioned Dayton, Ohio had been one of the areas that had this happen. Now, according to this article, there was 27,000 reported crimes that PSS believes they can reduce by 20 to 30%. Now, when you go on and read this article, this was all started back in Iraq, like I said, to catch the IEDs. People are planning IEDs, supposedly. So obviously they have done exactly what DJ and Nathan Leal pointed to. They have turned this on the American people. So I sent you that link, and like I say, it's up on Drudge right now, and you can read even more about it. But they are basically using this as a crime investigation tool, and like you said, this whole quantum computer thing ties into it. There's a man that I would suggest maybe y'all get in touch with. His name is Anthony Patch. I sent you the information on him. He is a professed Christian. He knows a lot about CERN and a lot about this quantum computer thing, and you are dead on. Steve is dead on. They are sending this information through this quantum computer into this alternate universe or dimension or whatever you want to call it to get the answers back so that they can stabilize and keep this portal open. In December, they're going to reach 14 teravolts. Now, once they reach the 14 teravolts, that's going to stabilize this portal. Now, that's why all of this is coming together about this time, in my opinion. So if you want to know more about that, I would look on that link. I emailed it to you, but it actually shows pictures of the aircraft, the camera that's underneath it. It shows that they've circled these cities. It's not even it's gone global. They're not even doing it just in the United States. This company is even doing it in Moscow, if you can believe that. Places like that. It's gone global. Just like DJ said, it is tying into a global information grid type thing, and they they are doing this just right under our nose. They haven't released all of the cities it in, but the four that I'm looking at on this article say Baltimore, Philadelphia, Moscow, and London have been selected to do this. Obviously, we've seen them over Minnesota and other places in the United States, but this is a real story. This is not conspiracy. What it does is, like I say, they use it to take all these thousands of pictures, and then when a crime's reported, they take these pictures and then they find out where cars were at certain times, and then they back the video up and find out where the cars came from, and then they solve these crimes.
That's right.
Of course, it's
hence the name. It's called the Persistent Surveillance System, and it's amazing. Yep. And I'm glad you pointed this out because, like you said, when a crime does happen, the analysts, all they have to do is look back, scene by scene by scene. They can identify those involved. They can follow the target by clicking forward through the images to the current moment. This is in real time, and this is absolutely incredible. And this, by the way, has been, a decade in the making and a decade in the running, okay? And isn't it funny that this is not reported in the American media? Did you notice where this is coming out of? Australia. Yeah.
Exactly, it was AU.com. And I thought it was very interesting that DJ was right on spot with that. It was tried overseas. It was deemed a success. And I was in the military. I absolutely know that what she says is true. Once a war doctrine is established, that is put on file. And for them to be turning this against the American people, obviously, like you said before, we are now behind enemy lines. So, a lot of people had a lot of questions about this. Is this real, or what's this all about? This article explains it in detail, even gives the company name, everything. So I just wanted to put that out there so everybody would know. Now, this Anthony, I believe his name was Anthony, I gave it to you, Anthony Patch. Okay. You might want to do some looking up. He is, like I say, he's a devout Christian. He is very well versed over the last 25 years on CERN, and he knows a lot about the quantum computer that's been developed to basically stabilize this portal, and that's their game plan. That's their game plan. They've admitted it. And he has a lot of good ideas. So it's just a recommendation for the show. Okay. But I just wanted to tell you, like I say, I love you guys. Had I not started in 2012 with my wife listening to you, I may not have my wife right now. So what you do makes a very, very, very big difference. And it's wide-reaching, and I love you guys. I really do. It's
thank you. I appreciate that. And you know what? We'll be praying for you and your wife. And I know Steve. He's just an amazing man. And thank you for pointing that out. And you're going to be in our prayers, buddy. You and your wife, really.
Well, I appreciate that, and like I say, Steve needs no defense. his actions speak for him. He has the Holy Spirit, but I'm glad you get riled up. You know what? We need more people to get riled up. I'm riled up too, and you know what? I'm not going to have this homosexual agenda shoved down my face. I've confronted many people on it, and that's if they want to. And like you said, this was an opinion, and you know what they say about opinions? Everybody's got them. So I'll just leave it at that. To be
you left half that. You left half that off, but that's okay. We'll just do it. But you're right.
Exactly.
And Greg Jackson had written an email, author Greg Jackson, and said, it's not a decision, it's more of an opinion. And he's right. It's an opinion, not a decision. And we don't have to follow that. So, all right, brother.
Well, I know
Thanks.
You guys have a lot more calls. I just wanted to give you those two sources. And like I say, Anthony Patch, I've been over the last week or so, kind of doing some research on him. Maybe you guys might want to look into him. It sounds like a really, really highly qualified layman type terms.
Sure.
Guest, and I'm sure you have your ways of confirming his credentials and things like that. So. Just a suggestion, and I just hope that we could answer these circling planes, because this is no joke. I mean, this is really going on.
Yeah.
And obviously it started off as just like DJ said, an overseas thing. So and not that she needed confirmation, but I'm just here to say, as a third testimony, or a third witness in the testimony or two or three, right? So just wanted to let y'all guys know and tell you that, hey, listen, I appreciate you. I listen to you every night. As a matter of fact, if I miss you, I can't sleep.
Well, sorry. So, hate to keep you awake. I hate to be the cause of your insomnia, so make sure you download. All right, brother.
All right, brothers. Listen, God bless you, and y'all keep doing what you're doing, and I'll let you go so you can get to the other calls.
All right, thanks, man. Yeah, we only have a few minutes left. It's interesting, Obama on ISIS threat today. Ideologies are not defeated with guns; they're defeated by better ideas. Apparently, Obama wants to sing "Kumbaya" with these ISIS terrorists he created, and of course, I'm sure John McCain would jump right in there with them.
Some people are saying that this is Obama, laying down plan to fight ISIS. No, this is him continuing to fund ISIS.
And I quote, "We'll constantly reaffirm through words and deeds that we will never be at war with Islam." Okay. All right. Well, okay. Here's another gem. This challenge of countering violent extremism. Notice he doesn't say terrorism or these people who cut the heads of other men and rape and kill children. He writes this challenge of countering violent extremism is not simply a military effort. Ideologies are not defeated with guns, but better ideas and more attracting and more compelling vision. Okay, you're going to actually sit down and have a conversation with these people. All right, Joe, go ahead. Oh, we got 90 seconds left.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, 90 seconds. As a interesting Bloomberg article writes today, good luck finding a place to hide as global markets crumble. It's an interesting read.
Yeah. Hey, run.
Well, they say that investors tend to respond to impending doom by selling risky stuff and hiding out in safer assets, namely bonds. But that's a problem with this time around. Nothing will be truly safe, especially right now, they say.
That's right.
It's an interesting write-up. I would read it. That's Bloomberg.com.
Hey, tomorrow night, we were just informed Stan will not be with us tomorrow night. So another open program tomorrow night, deliberately open. Just want to say God bless. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for your time tonight. Also on Hagmann Hagmann, if you click on the link there, it takes you to our YouTube channel. You can subscribe. And
we had a ton of callers tonight, folks. If you want to get through,
we'll pick up tomorrow.
Yeah, if you're on hold tonight, call back tomorrow, and
why don't you freeze that and identify the callers, and that way when you call back, we can hit you in the order that you're on hold.
Yeah, I got it. I wrote down some area codes. But yeah, give us a call back tomorrow, and we'll take your call then. Until then, stay safe, good night, and God bless each and every one of you.